tendum Sanyimu anilulu watambida de aninkaira Kairo doma bela manzo zadauda Bankola tenduma anala bango sundela Bokirami bandira be fulbe Dimare mukamuda muyini Kubadu diloran bango mo manzeo Bela bango bang yemodu bango ganganda Birada bololan salwedin yenganda Sasudon yenganda Sada yenganda Binari yenganda Sabindi yenganda Esa John Paul yenganda Yaji Barman yenganda Ya duro bada Sada da jare banguda His Excellency Sada da Karaba Jawara after receiving the constitutional instrument for the country's independence in 1965 said this
That the tax is now because it's findable, and this being so, we are the more determined to strive relentlessly to overcome the difficulties that make the task so considerable. In honor of him, to foster peace, progress, and prosperity in the Gambia, the goodwill and cooperation of the Irish government in the United Kingdom and other governments in Africa and other parts of the Commonwealth, and indeed of the world, are essential. And as our writers have rightly predicted, such goodwill and cooperation will help us considerably to sustain and develop our aim to build a new, peaceful, and successful nation.
Ini murara janya Niya jambe pare manyindulala Bangola bansoto sundela Nina dinna gamya bangola
Bimulun kuma baleti PPP la tariko kono komi ya fo nyamen drong bimu sanji taworo ani woro wulaleti kabirin PPP la patiyo lota fokana bula bila wo kamala be mol be danila bawo serun nim modol le benta jang nyinan wol mannano alala kitiyo kamma anin na founding father sol miliyalon ko wolle nyim patiyo lo wol jamal bije bi wol fanam mantaram fe jambi woto be mol danila folo folo duala besi wuli ngalo nga duwa ken na founding father soliye nga duwa ke moli fanali miliyalon ko ni tarta jan serum bi nyinay manna tarano jang besi wuli nga 1 minute duwa ke wol ye ngal dani wo duala folo. We all stand up and give 1 minute silence for our founding fathers. Okay, thank you. Allah baraka. Na kumo mantara jam fala jam bi mbe kumo men fala drong wala mu nyinti ko presental bi janne miliyalon ko nyanta diamul kela Wow, okay. Imam fanan nata sa inteng mba almamo mba konton na mba fala bismillah nyimbe on to jang. Mbe min fola doron wala mol besike lamoyr lalti bawo mol kacalal bija milyalon ko wala bina kacal kelanye si lamoy pour sa moy ibe même fola nye isaje kon nin kuma stano. So wakola benna diamo dan na jang mbe diamo ci kala kadi kacalal la milyalon ko nyillu nga kere kere pour wol sina kaca. Allah ñi meeting bi mba dayele la ñi anniversary bi al salon ko dayele ta pour kacalalu isi kacano ala baraka.
As we celebrate the 67 years of the People Progressive Party, we are not merely marking time. We are celebrating political struggles, national development and democratic participations in the Gambia. Today, I stand before you to emphasize one critical pillar in our democracy, political education. In the Gambian context, political education is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Our democracy can only be strong as the understanding of the citizens who participate in it. When citizens are politically informed, they make decisions based on knowledge, not manipulations, on issues, not on emotions, and on visions, not misinformation. Understanding political educations, our constitutions, and democratic institutions, the role of political parties in national development, electoral process, and voting, the rights and responsibilities of citizens. The importance of meaningful political engagement. Before independence, under the leadership of Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara, political education was central to the national struggle. At a time when many Gambians had limited exposure to formal political system, Sir Dawda and the early PPP leadership traveled across the provinces, engaging farmers, chief, youth, and community leaders. They explained self-governance, constitutional role, and representative democracy. Through grassroots and mobilizations and dialogue, they transformed civic stability, achievements that were not an accidental, but rooted in continuous political engagement and education. He understands that nation buildings require citizens who were informed, disciplined, and committed to peaceful democratic process. For far too long, politics in Africa has sometimes been reduced to slogan, personalities, and divisions. But as a historic party that led these nations to independence, the PPP must continue to set the standard by promoting informed participation, discipline, and respect for democratic value. As the president of the National Civic Education Committee, my commitment is clear. We will strengthen training across constituencies. We will engage students and youth nationwide. We will promote responsible political conduct. And we will ensure that every member understands not just how to support the party, but why they support it. A politically educated membership is a disciplined membership. A disciplined party is a united party. A united party is prepared for victory. As we prepare for December 26 elections, let us remember that true political strength begins with knowledge. Let us build not just supporters, but informed citizens. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide our strength, our unity, and strengthen our wisdom as we prepare our party and our nation. May He continue to bless the People Progressive Party and bless the Republic of the Gambia with peace, justice, and prosperity. I thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ونعم المولى ونعم النصير نصر من الله وفتح قريب وبشر للمؤمنين إنما أمره جاء شيء يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده الملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إسرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم
Baraka Bake. May all the prayers be answered.
Pal, the wife of our Secretary General and party leader. Behind every strong man, there is a strong woman. Welcome, madam. Secretary General and party leader, Honorable Usman Madike Fall, National President Bemba Nanko, distinguished elders, women, youth leaders, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today I stand before you with pride, humility, and conviction to speak on a fundamental pillar of democracy and national progress, the participation of women in politics and leadership. The People's Progressive Party has always believed that a nation cannot fully develop when half of its population is excluded from leadership, decision-making, and governance. Women are not just beneficiaries of development, they are drivers of development. From the earliest foundations of our movement, women were not merely supporters of the People's Progressive Party, they were pioneers, organizers, and trailblazers who shaped the destiny of our party and our nation. Long before independence, women played a crucial role in the Protectorate People's Society, which later evolved into the People's Progressive Party. Lady Aja Fanta Basse made history as the first female member of the executive of the Protectorate People's Society, at a time when women's political participation was unheard of. Her courage and leadership laid the foundation for women's political organization within the PPP. Another historic milestone was set by Augusta Mahoney Jawara, the first wife of the late Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara and former president of the Gambia, who became the first woman in the Gambia to contest an election. She broke a social and political barriers and inspired women across the country to participate in politics. Under the First Republic, the PPP government continued to promote women into national leadership. Honorable Aja Nyimasata Sane Bojang made history as the first woman elected to the National Assembly of the Gambia on the PPP ticket. She became
Prior
a
to his
powerful
election as party leader,
for women's
Fall
rights
served
and fight against harmful traditional practices. Honorable Louis and Antoinette Njai, commonly known as Auntie Lou, became the first female cabinet minister in the Gambia serving in several ministries, including health, youth, culture, and social welfare. She championed women's empowerment, education, and social development, and played a key role in shaping policies that uplifted women.
While we remind Mr. Babakar
Auntie
Mboup
Ajaratu
to
Ya
be on
Fatou
standby.
Sonko was a pioneering leader in the People's Progressive Party. In 1979, she became the first female president of the PPP and later served as a Justice of the Peace and Councillor of Women's Affairs in Combo East and Combo Central. She dedicated her life to public service and women's empowerment, inspiring generations of women to participate in politics and community leadership. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, to point out a very prominent and dedicated woman amongst ourselves today by the name of Ajaratu Bintu Jaite, who has voluntarily dedicated her life, her resources, and her knowledge to the progress of this party. Thank you, Mrs. Jaite. On a personal note, I would like to acknowledge the prominent women who were my role models and inspired me to venture into politics. The icons of our time. Aja Ya Fatou Salla, Kenda Kanjai, Aja Tenen Toure of Wuli East,
Keba Jallo,
where I come from.
Prior to his election
Aja
as party
Fatou
leader,
Benga, Aja Ndei Seka, Aja Safin Daw, Aja Jambandin Drame, Aja Mariam Alabamboj, to name a few. These extraordinary women were grassroots politicians who promoted, mentored, and nurtured young women to take up leadership and political roles. Their dedication, courage, and mentorship development.
To suffer in silence screams loud, loud we mime in songs of grief. How can you not see the tragedies unfold? Innocent life lost, their stories untold. Corruption thrives, justice denied. Those who steal, the big thieves are mean, walk free. Their sins brush aside. In this system, it seems justice is only justified when you are poor without a backer whose doors are open wide. You've built a system where the rich grow fatter than the fattest, and the poor are left with nothing but to face a case of hunger, hardship, frustration, depression, stress, anxiety, weak and sick. Lack the means, no back to back up who sticks with us if the government lacks the ideas to stick by us, to remedy the crisis and address the masses. Imagine that. How do you think the heroes of our nation will feel, knowing that the country they fought for so tirelessly is run by hungry lunatics who have degrees in corruption and PhD in stealing public funds? I bet Sardauda will whip. Edward Francis Small will cry. For a nation led by greed where truth goes to die, to wake it alive is a crime designed by political aliens. Among the three arms, corruption thrives. Your actions prove that you won't improve. Revive Mother Gambia, we won't survive if we repeat the same mistake we made in 2021 on 2026. To my fellow Gambians, open your eyes, see through the lies, for corruption has blinded their hearts. It's time to rise to demand a change, to sever the ties. Let them drop their neckties and we tired. The cries of change are loud. The suffering is real. Let 2026 be the year we finally heal. At the ballot box, let our voices be heard, for the broken contract cannot be fixed until and unless change is realized. I see broken homes all over this country. To be repaid is a dream that does not sound appeared. We plea and appeal to seal the holes that expose our vulnerability. But their ability holds no dignity to remedy the adversity because they lack humanity. A nation teachers ready to fall like a faulty play, no hope at all. The fact, no cap, the truth, no lie. Our hospitals have become graveyards for the poor, for the weak, for the vulnerable. No door to knock for help is on the floor for the poor, where mothers die and no one cares. Emergency fades, urgency dies. Immorality thrives where dignity lies. This is the life we enjoy, the rule we obey, a government that leads us astray. If only they worship God as they worship corruption. If only they cared for the people in need, to plant a seed of hope, to feed, of deed, to lead righteously. Only then could we thrive, revive, and restore a nation once proud, now broken to the core. But Gambia, a cure, we need a leader, we seek a bit, we hope will grow, seedlings to heed the cries of the masses in need. How absurd it sounds when leaders build roads to max the rut, covering the sins of the ruling lot. You know, they talk a lot while hunger nouns. The citizens suffer the rot. Reason with me, Gambians. The nation crumbles under soaring prices and the living crisis, starting advices, heart-wrenching scenes of 1 meal a day. The poor left hopeless, their dreams swept away like a flood in Bangladesh. In this country, suffering feels like a crime. Thank you all for your wonderful kind attention.
Granules. While neglecting industrial development, social service, and economic diversification, as a result, the Gambian economy before independence was characterized by agricultural dominance, monocrop dependencies, limited industrial activity, and widespread poverty. This will give us a detailed explanation of the main features of the Gambia's colonial economy and highlights how these features made the country economically well and development when it comes to dependence at independence. To start with, number one, under those major policies under the colonial rule was agriculture as the dominant sector of the economy. Agriculture was the foundation of the Gambia's economy during the colonial era. The vast majority of the population lived in rural areas and depend directly or indirectly on farming for their survival. The economy was overwhelming agrarian, meaning farming was the primary sector when it comes to the economic activity and sources of income for most Gambians. Groundnut as the backbone of the economy. The most important agricultural product was groundnut, that is peanut, which is the backbone of the economy, and at certain periods accounted for over 90% of the Gambia's export earning. The British colonial authorities actively encouraged groundnut cultivation because it was in high demand on the international market, particularly in Britain, where it was used for oil production and animal feed. So having said all those things related to agriculture, it is necessary for the audience to understand that the colonial economy was prioritizing nothing, but that was centered on what we call the demands for global commodity at the time. Since at the time, what used to happen was the dictates of dominance in the supermarket world. And in that supermarket world would be dictated by what we call the monopoly of economy that will sustain the interests of the imperialist powers. To the next one, we have monocrop dependency and economic fragility. One of the most defining features of the Gambia's economic during the colonial period was it heavily depends on what we call single crop groundnut. This monocrop dependency made economy extremely fragile and unsustainable. To the other one, we're talking about a trade-based colonial economy. That is, the Gambian economy during the British rule functioned mainly as a trade-based colonial economy. The country's strategic location along the River Gambia made it an ideal trading post for the British. The Gambia as a trading post, the British used the Gambia primarily as a commercial center where goods could be transported along the river from the interior to the coast. The River Gambia serves as the main route for moving granules from rural farming areas to the ports in Batos. So in so doing, means their major concentration rely mostly on how to extract the resources that were generated from the poor people at the expense of nothing, but rather to leave them with absolute poverty. To the limited industrial development, which is the fourth point, industrial development during the colonial period was extremely limited. I would be even very much confused if the context here is limiting it to was extremely limited. The answer or the question could be, was there even any industrial development during the colonial time? The British administration did not invest in building a strong industrial base in the Gambia. That is the absence of heavy industries, which left the country to be struggling up to the time where revolution came and independence was ushered. Moving forward to the fifth, which was the infrastructural development serving colonial interest. What were the infrastructural development and what was the motive of those infrastructural development? It states here, infrastructural development during the colonial era was designed mainly to support export economic rather than to promote a national development. Brothers and sisters and fellow partisans and supporters, it is important to understand that the imperialist colonial project was designed purely not to put any development in standards, but rather we live in absolute disunity. The sixth one, we talked about the low income levels and widespread poverty. The structure of the colonial economy contributed to the low income levels and widespread poverty. Rural poverty. Most Gambians living in rural areas and depend on agriculture, particularly groundnut farming, since earnings were low and unsustainable. Poverty was widespread. Farmers received little compensation for their labor, while profits for or from exports largely benefited foreign traders and colonial authorities. The next to move on, as we don't have much time to delay on, would be looking into the colonial economy, comparing it to how the economic policy of the PPP government influenced the Gambia's development. We will agree, or at the end of this deliberation, you will all agree with me that the PPP government at the time contributed immensely to make sure that what was inherited was turned into a positive perspective where individual and citizenry will be benefited, and to a far extent will feel the presence of a government that represents the interests of the citizenry. To move forward with an introduction, it stated here that when the Gambia gained independence in 1965, it came under the leadership of the People's Progressive Party, PPP, led by Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara. The PPP remained in power until 1994. At independence, the country inherited a weak economy from colonial rule. This economy depended mainly on agriculture, especially the production and export of groundnuts, and rely heavily on foreign trade and external assistance. The PPP government introduced economic policies that focus on political stability, slow and peace, and careful development, and a liberal economic system that allowed private businesses and foreign involvement. These policies helped the country remain peaceful and achieve most or some special improvements. However, they also continued many of the economic weaknesses inherited from colonial rule, such as the dependence on agriculture, lack of strong industries, and reliance on foreign aid. In this way, the PP economics policies strongly influenced the direction of the Gambia's development from independence to the early 90s. Brothers and sisters, it is important to reflect that inheriting a poor economy is of huge challenge to any government that will come to take over. With all those challenges, the PPP government make it possible to ensure that the difficulties and those challenges the poor farmers faced and the citizenry faced were transformed into a better policy and practice that will not only position the Gambia but benefit the Gambians at large. Continued dependence on agriculture was one that the PPP government took over, and make some adjustment on. One major way the PPP government shaped the Gambia's development was by continuing to depend on agriculture as the main part of the economy. Farming, especially groundnut production, remained the backbone of the country. We could reflect on this was the first policy that was adopted by the British, but what are the differences here? Groundnuts continue to provide most export earning. At the initial stage, profits were maximized only to benefit the imperialist side,
to unifying
that is the
the party and revitalizing
But
its
with the presence of the PPP government,
emphasizing
most
the importance
exports
of
earnings
inclusivity
were
and
brought back to make sure that the citizenry benefits and the nation heals for a better economic development and a way forward. Income for rural farming was also prioritized. Employment for a large part of the population was also adopted. Support given to farmers. The government makes sure that they introduce measures to support farmers, such as marketing boards to help organize buying and selling of granules, which were absent during that of the colonial period. Price control was essential. Why was it essential? To reduce sudden change in farmers' income. Because farmers here, the government that had the citizenry at heart, must make sure to prioritize what will sustain the situation whenever difficulties arises. Agricultural extension service were also provided to advise farmers on better farming methods, means a diverse methods of adaptations that were introduced by the government did not only limit the government to introduce them, but also by far produce what we call extension service workers who will guide the interests of the farmers and make sure that a better outcome was brought forward. These policies help protect rural livelihoods and ensure that the country earn foreign exchange, especially in the early years after independence, where we expect crisis of more of dependence to be observed. The next is talking about liberal and market-based economy policy. The PPP government followed a liberal economic approach, meaning it believed in allowing the market to play a major role in the economy. The government encouraged what we call private businesses, which were never introduced and even allowed by the foreign imperialist powers at the time. Foreign investments were brought and were developed. Free trade was another aspect that was introduced, and benefits of these liberal policies will take us to this. By avoiding extreme policies like nationalizing businesses, the PPP government maintained confidence among investors, kept good relationship with Western countries, attract support from international donors. Today, I'll put to you on record that whatever and at any point in time that a government in the present generation celebrate is as a result of the policies and the roadmap.
Reads, inside of politics, inside of the land, truth for the nation, a future to stand. People's Progressive Party stood with people's cry, voice of the masses that will never die. Progress we seek, where justice leads the way. We call party members, arise and unite. We call the people, restore what is right. Build back trust where promises fall. Let principles guide and service call. Watong, Tuokuo Sita, Alnante City. Justice for all. The era of South Dauda Kairaba Jawra still shines bright. Kartung Tesito dorong yoleke for dalaso sembo warta euro ti Kairaba Sanji Kesa Buruntuta Domoro Buita aba fata ring Jawra Jamano Diata Kotlibiti Kulito. A golden chapter. A golden chapter of peace and light. We cannot repair the seeds he sowed, nor mark the unity his wisdom sowed, but we protect the path he saw our way. If we remove his legacy, Gambian history will fade. If we raise the rules, future will degrade. His legacy breathes through the people's name, through unity, peace, and national flame. History belongs to the people. claims. He was the pilot of freedom's flight, sailing independence into the hopeful light, guardian of peace through storm and sea, guiding the Gambia to dignity. Wotong te sito, wotong alnan te city, te sito sita. Alna Gambia doku idea ko sito, sa dauda ya doku le ko tilbiti kulito. Wotong alnan te city for Gambia sa murun daha kono. So long live PPP. Alabar.
Political unity. This is an important day, but it's not a day just to celebrate PPP. But today we celebrate national unity, and we also celebrate the resilience of our forefathers, individuals who dedicated their time to liberate the Gambia from colonialism. Most of the speakers who spoke here today, perhaps they missed to mention one important point. PPP was formed even before Sadada was part of PPP. And most of the people who established PPP, they're from the protectorate. The British colonial system sidelined, neglected protectorate Gambia. These people came up with the idea to establish this political party. So PPP is the party of the masses. It's the party that belongs to ordinary Gambians. Sadauda and his comrades, they've laid a solid foundation for the young people now to take up from that where they stopped at. And then I also want to thank the party leader for entrusting me and some of my colleagues to be part of this struggle. This is a generational mission. And you can be assured that as young people of the Gambia who wants to see change, who are hungry for change, we are going to ensure we play our quota. Just like Sadauda, he came, he saw, he conquered. We've also come, we are going to ensure we conquered, so that generations that are to come after us, they will know they also have a duty to take from where we stop. Thanks to all of you for coming, and then we honor your presence here.